Hey, good morning. I want you to watch this before you complete this assignment. Um, it's kind of a little sad that we can't do this together. The last thing we did in school before this whole thing started is we walked around, we looked around outside, and we talked about things. We looked at the little stream in front of the school. Some of you might remember we saw like the oil sheen in the stream, and we talked about how that can get there and where it can come from. And then we're supposed to go back to that lesson and walk around the school again and talk about specifically the water in the stream on the campus and look at the elevation. Um, and you would have been mapping like a topographic map around campus. So it's kind of hard to explain without being there. But if you think about it, we walk out of the front door of the school, we definitely sit higher than the cross country course. So if you looked at the topographic map, obviously the elevation at the entrance to the school is much higher than the parking lot, and then it's much higher than the cross country course. So because of that, water would definitely run down the parking lot into that little stream. But then the question is, where does that stream go? And as you learn about watersheds, everyone is a part of a watershed, but importantly, everyone can affect a watershed. So when we saw that oil sheen in the parking lot and in that stream, that's probably from a car, and then rain and runoff carries it into the storm drain and then into the little stream in front of the school. Well, that stream actually leads to Mill Creek, and Mill Creek even goes further. It goes to the park, and then eventually to the Mahoning River. Um, but that oil that leaked in a parking lot in the school doesn't just stay there. It doesn't get cleaned up. It just runs off with surface runoff. And that's one of the impacts that I want you to think about when we're talking about the watershed. So, for this lesson, this website is very valuable, but you need to read. You need to click on the tabs. When you first click on the link, it's going to bring you here. But most of your answers, you're going to go to this tab. What is a watershed? That's going to be an important one. But again, you got to read to find your answers and scroll down. It's not just going to be the first thing you see on the screen. It'll give you some information about watersheds in general. And this picture should look familiar because in our notes, we talked about point A, B, C, and D. And if you think about it, all the water is going to follow those arrows. And then whatever runoff picks up pollution by the farm, it carries it down here. And then the runoff from the cow farm. And then any litter and pollution around the neighborhood eventually runs down here. And that's why we said this is the least healthiest point along the river. Not that this is any not that this point up here is healthy, but there's potential pollution, and it all gathers down here. Another important tab will be this one, watersheds in Mahoning County. So in Boardman, if you notice, we are part of two different watersheds. I'm sorry, three watersheds: Mill Creek, Yellow Creek, and actually the Mahoning River. So if you think about that old White House at the top of the hill, just past where Kids R Us used to be and Toys R Us, that's like the dividing line between the two watersheds in Boardman. So depending on where you are, water will either run off to Mill Creek and towards Glenwood, or it'll run off down the hill towards Boardman Township Park, Sam's Club towards Poland, and that goes to Yellow Creek. But if you click on each of these individually, um, it'll give you specific maps. It'll give you more information, which is important. I do ask a question about Meander Creek. Meander Creek watershed is important because of the Meander Reservoir, and that's something you want to look up and you'll want to click and read here. Another important tab will probably be this storm water in you. That's another important tab. You'll find some information. So I want you to make sure you're reading through this to answer your questions as you go through this assignment. And this is a good resource. And then explaining this and be able to explain this and know the difference between the two watersheds and what happens in stormwater will be very beneficial for the assignment we're going to do tomorrow. And I'm going to ask you to get outside. We would be doing this around school campus, but we're going to do it around your house. And I really want you to see your impact and your neighbor's impact on the watershed, depending on which watershed you live in Boardman. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys soon.